All right, showtime. Let's see who is here early. Exciting stuff. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me and you can see me. Quick sound tech test before we dive in. Let me know where you're tuning from. I am so curious. Hello, hello, everyone. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me and see me, and let me know where you are tuning from. So curious. And while we wait for people rolling in, maybe share with me in the chat, what is your biggest frustration when it comes to breaking into leadership roles? Beautiful. I can see that we have viewers right now. I am so excited. Yay! Yay, Toronto. Wonderful. Welcome, welcome. Super excited. We literally have a minute left. I don't want to start before everyone comes so that no one gets mad at me. So let me know, what is your biggest frustration when it comes to breaking into leadership roles, or even any role, really? Because when it comes to leadership, this isn't just about breaking into director level and above. It is being a leader in your career, because I truly believe that everyone should think about what's next for them when it comes to their career. And it's never too early to plan if you are intending to become a people manager someday or lead a team. It's never too early to plan for that and think about how you can build your brand against that. Wonderful. Gatekeeping. Interesting. Need experience, but nobody will give you the opportunity. Thank you for sharing. All right. Wonderful. Welcome, Stephanie. Welcome, John. Saba, Dan, Michael. You're such early birds. Articulating what I have done and what I'm capable of. I'm so glad that you are mentioning that, because I decided to dig deeper into that today. Wonderful. And you see, like, people are actually meeting each other in my lives and realizing that they live in similar areas. And this is a great networking opportunity for you all. So make sure that you stick around till the end. Okay, so let us get started. Why are we here today? We are here to talk about how to transition into a leadership role without the previous title. So my promise to you today is I am going to show you how to get strangers to find you, like you, trust you, and hire you, even if you've never had the title. Okay, that is my promise to you today. Hey, Art, I'm so glad that you made it. What makes me an authority on this topic? It's not the certifications I got as a career coach and a certified resume writer. And it is not, I mean, it does help that I've helped more than 130 clients land jobs across more than 7 countries at companies like Amazon, Slalom, Red Hat, etc. But apart from all of that, the reason I'm an authority on this topic is the fact that I was a nobody. So let's see if I don't get emotional when I tell you my story. But at the age of 17, my father basically threw a can of car oil at me and he missed. And in that moment, I realized that I had no choice but to start over. And I decided to leave everything behind. I decided to come to a new country with only 2 suitcases by myself. And it was actually around September 11 when this happened. It was that year. So being an immigrant and being a minority and a woman of color was not a great time for me to be in. And, you know, the fact that I was able to get through that, all of the hurdles, and be here today and go from invisible, you can see from the left, that's what my LinkedIn looked like. I only had 500 connections, to actually building a business from 0 to 1, not knowing anyone in this country, because I swear to you, both of my parents are still in the Middle East, in Bahrain, where I was born. I had no relatives coming in, zero. To do that by myself and build a business from 0 to 1 without a title is what makes me an authority on this topic. So if you're going to talk about, oh, but I don't have a title, oh, but I don't know the right people, well, there's no excuse, because if I did it, then you can do it too. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Okay, so these are just examples of some of the gigs and the talks that I did, and that was a lot for me, because I swear to you, I was that kind of kid who was always shy and introverted and didn't like being on stage. And for me to be able to get out of my comfort zone and do that has been so magical and has literally saved my life. So, totally improvising here and totally unplanned, because this happened unexpectedly. I wanted to share with you all, some of you may have seen my post, but Saturday, when I woke up in the morning at 9 o'clock, again, try not to be emotional, uh, I saw my dog stuck in the corner of my bedroom. And normally, when I wake up, he runs, and I nickname him Gizmo, because he literally starts barking at me, wanting food. And so when I woke up in the morning and he was so quiet, I felt that there was something wrong. And I saw him in a corner, feeling paralyzed and stuck, and his eye was twitching. And I had to pick him up, and he was shaking while I was holding him. And I was so terrified and had no idea what to do. So in the terror that I was feeling, I took him to the emergency. And of course, I had to explain, in an eloquent way to the surgeons his whole history, because he's been going through this for 3 years. And as you all know, with any medical system, you're never dedicated to one, physician or neurologist. There's an exchange in doctors, and you have to repeat yourself and tell the story and advocate for your loved ones or for yourself to get the proper care. But what I wanted to say, and the whole point of the story, is that if I haven't been able to sell myself and build my business from 0 to 1, try not to cry here, I would not have been able to foot a $5,000 bill and save my dog's life. And this is why I want to gift you all the gift of being able to sell your value so that you can take care of your loved ones. And that is the reason, I'm here today to talk to you. Like I said, you don't need to have the title in order to go after what you love and what you deserve. All right? Whew, got through this. Okay, so here's another thing, though, that I wanted to share with you all that will help you skyrocket your career. It is the importance of having a board of trusted advisor and being part of a community. Because what my clients will tell you is that, yes, they benefited from my coaching, but they had each other. They never felt alone. And they were part of people who genuinely cared about them and helped them achieve their goals. What they didn't tell you is that I learned from them as much as they learned from me. And so being part of a community is also why it is important for you to never do this alone. Okay. So The strategies that I'm going to share with you are the strategies that have worked for hundreds of clients. This is going to work if you want to grow your career. Put for me in the chat if you are in a position where you feel you deserve more and you want to grow your career. And tell me what the next level that you're aiming for. In your heart and soul, maybe you're having imposter syndrome and maybe you've gotten a lot of no's. I don't care. Tell me, what is the level, if I were to hold you accountable and encourage you to strive for your value, what is the next level that you feel you deserve? Put that for me in the chat. All right. Share with me. Doesn't matter whether you're going for a manager level, a team lead, a director level, a VP level. Maybe for you, growth is simply learning something new and getting into a new career. I'm curious. I'd love to know so that I can guide you the best way possible during this live. Beautiful. Creative director, manager, director. Nice. Scrum master. Thank you, Joy. AVP. Beautiful. Director. Cool. Transitioning from consulting to product management. Yes. All of you are amazing high achievers who do not want to stagnate in their career and want to grow. Excellent. And these strategies that I'm going to share with you that have worked for my clients, they work for any industry, because guess what? I don't brand myself as a product career coach or an agile career coach or an XYZ career coach. I call myself a master career coach because these strategies work for any industry. And I've helped people within a gazillion different industries, whether it is, I've had success stories with a client who went from an assistant professor within theater to a learning consultant at a tech company. I helped someone break into a finance manager role, engineering manager, director of product. I have helped people break into product, so break into agile coach. And usually my clients have an average of 10 years of experience. But I've also worked with a variety, ranging from right out of school all the way to C-level. Okay, so you're in the right place if you fit this category. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff out there, books, guides, but let me tell you something. This is why I know this works, because this is from experience, not theory. And one of my mentors, Mr. Gandhi here, says that knowledge gained through experience is far superior and many times more useful than bookish knowledge. So I don't care what's out there. I don't care what the literature is. All of these things that I'm teaching you, I've tested over more than, I will say, 150, 200 clients. And I've tested them on myself as a business, because I truly believe when I teach my clients that you need to drive your career and take an entrepreneurial approach. All right. So who wants to save more than $100,000? Because that's how much I've spent in more than 3.5 years learning everything I know about these strategies. Tell me in the chat. Who wants to save more than $100,000? Because if you don't, I'm just, going to go home now. Who wants to save more than $100,000? Let me know in the chat. Yes or no. Hey, if you don't want to save money, that's okay. Let me know in the chat. Anyone? Come on. Where's the enthusiasm? Where's the excitement? Share with me. It's possible that there's a little bit of a lag. Me. Not me. Okay, goodbye if it's not you. Robert, if you stay till the end, you're going to end up making even more than $100,000. Wonderful. Okay, beautiful. Here's another thing that I wanted to share with you. So a lot of people, I actually had an interesting message. I think it was yesterday. Someone messaged me and said, what is your strategy? Like, you're a business. Why are you putting out all of this stuff, for free and not charging anyone? That was a very interesting question. And my response to her was, well, first of all, I've had people who listen to my podcast, and here's an example on the right, ended up breaking into a product role just by listening to my podcast and not getting coached by me. And when I get messages like this, honestly, it makes me feel happy that people are getting results. But the thing is, my ulterior motive is that, and I had a little snapshot, but I'm not going to show it because to protect the person's privacy. My ulterior motive is that I've had a client who basically got results before signing up to my storytelling bootcamp. He got promoted before even working with me. And that's what's exciting for me. I want people to get results before they even work with me, because you know what? It saves me time and it saves you time. And I'd rather work with people who buy into what I teach and are confident that it's going to get them results than people who are reluctant, because I believe that I need permission to coach. And I'd rather have someone whose learning style aligns with mine. But also what that allows me to do is when people get results before they work with me, is I can even push them to the next level. So that is my ulterior motive. Some of you, many of you, will decide that you want to work with me after you learn these strategies. And for the people who feel that you can just try this out your own and experiment, that's okay too. It's better that you get some results than nothing. It's still a win-win for all of us. And that's how we can make the world a better place. Okay? The other thing is that I also know what it feels like slaving yourself. You may have seen my story of how I lost half of my pancreas because of a job, and how I quit over text because I didn't get promoted. So I know that sense of betrayal when you put in your all and don't feel appreciated. It's a horrible feeling. And this is why I do this. This is why I pump out all the content and spend hours. This presentation itself took me more than 4 hours to put together, because that's how much I care about people's success. Now, friendly reminder, this training is interactive, so try not to fall asleep, because you don't want this to be like a gym membership that you never use. You don't want to be, you don't want this to be yet another basically training session that you attended or a book that you read and put back in the shelf. I really want you to learn. I truly do. It's more motivating for a coach to actually have people engaged and learning than not. And it's actually gonna motivate me to give you my 200% when I see you all listening and when I see you all engaging. So let's make this fun and engage in the micro exercises so that you end up implementing these things. Okay, so just for the people who need an extra little push for motivation, this is like the teacher in me, a form of bribery to get you all to pay attention is there will be a prize worth $100 for the first 20 people who message me at the end of the live. So that's how I'll know that you actually stuck around and you put in your 110%. And I love rewarding the people who actually put in the 110%. Deal? Let me know in the chat if it's a deal. Remember what I said. Okay, where? Tell me more, Melina. Not sure I understand the message. So the prize is going to happen. I'll tell you basically what the prize is at the end. And you're just going to have to DM me on LinkedIn, in case you don't know, in order to claim the prize. Okay, cool. Now, let's go to the next, part. So who here wants to grow their career and earn higher pay, more decision-making power, more freedom, and more of the things you enjoy? Who here wants that? Because I would assume that is what you want if you want to grow your career. If it isn't, or if there's something else that you wish you could get, I'm also curious. Let me know in the chat. Excellent. John, you want to grow your career. Beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. Me. Cool. Beautiful. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I know, Safe. Who doesn't, right? But you'd be surprised. I've met people who just want to clock in and clock out, and they don't want to move up or they don't want to learn. So it's okay. If you're not in that bucket, then that's totally fine. It just means that we're not a fit. Not a fit as a follower, because all of my content is about growth, and not a fit as a potential coach. And that is totally fine, because I only like to work with high achievers. Okay. Here is a question that I want to ask you to reverse engineer this. All of you are wanting to basically figure out, how can I grow my career? But let me ask you differently. How could you guarantee that you never get to the next level? Pop quiz, micro assignment number 1. Let's see who gets this right. Come on, friendly competition. I'm a competitive person. I love getting the answers right. By the way, I love the thing about helping others. That's one of my values as a business, and something that I also teach my clients. Feel entitled to it. John, that's a really good one. That's a really good one. Not wanting to learn and grow. If you don't learn, then no next level. Yes, don't try. Yes. Not voicing your opinion, having fear, doing nothing. Luis, you're cheating a little bit, but I'm going to shock you though. Not learning and growing, procrastinate. And by the way, I say she cheated because, she's a very loyal follower. So she knows a lot of what I teach inside out. If you don't know your why, being complacent, not getting out of your comfort zone, those are such great answers. Such great answers. Well, I'm going to get you, being invisible. That's a good one too. And did you watch one of my lives? The answer is going to be different this time. Okay. Does this shock anyone? It's sort of in alignment with a lot of what you all shared. Not building trust, because the thing is, if people don't trust you, then they're not going to feel that you're capable of taking on the next level. That's the answer. And so I'm going to teach you today how to build trust. Okay? Deal? Cool. All right. So here's my formula in terms of breaking into a leadership role. And I'll tell you how trust gets weaved into this. Okay? So there are 3 components when it comes to breaking into a leadership role. Get found. Obviously, you want recruiters, hiring managers to find you. Attract, right? And I'm all about attracting people to us versus, oh, hey, knock on the door, cold calling kind of thing. Obviously, when a recruiter finds you or when a hiring manager finds you, you want them to either stay on your resume and keep reading, or you want them to be attracted to your conversation if you're having a conversation with them, whether it's through networking or an interview. And you want to be able to convince them, aka influence them. That's a 3-step formula. All right. So here's a little Venn diagram, and you're going to see momentarily why this is a Venn diagram. So we all know that at the end of the day, we want to get found. one of the tools to getting found is networking, right? This is the primary tool of getting found, other than executive recruiters, other than your LinkedIn profile and ensuring that you really leverage the algorithm. At the end of the day, you need traffic, you need eyeballs, you want to be discovered. Attract is when the recruiter basically finds you, the first question they're going to ask you is, can I see your resume? Because I want to see your experience, right? And so you want to attract them to that. You want to get them to keep reading enough to convince them to interview you, right? And the last step is really the interview. That is where you want to basically influence them and convert them to give you an offer. Now, why is this a Venn diagram? Because there is one building block that is common to all of these things that you need to do well in order to get results. Now, who can guess that? I'm going to be very shocked if someone gets this right, because I haven't really explained it this way before, but maybe the people who have been following my content for a while may be able to guess. What is the building block that will help you basically network effectively, that will keep recruiters and hiring managers reading your experience and create that stickiness? And what is that one see you later, Krishna. What is that one basically building block that is going to convince hiring managers to interview you? Who knows? What is that? Your story. Oh my God, you got it right. Someone got it right. Yes, that is correct. It is your story. Yes. Bravo. Bravo. You all got this right. Superstars. Now, the thing is, you can have all the experience in the world, but if you don't know how to tell your story, then recruiters are not going to find you or call you for an interview, and you're definitely not going to be able to convert your interviews into offers. All right. So here's the method that I always teach my clients when it comes to telling their story. Your experience and the reason why a lot of you are struggling, whether it is breaking into a new career or moving up, is it feels like your experience is a brain dump. A lot of you have been doing what you do for so many years that it becomes muscle memory. And you're not able to articulate it and express it very well. It feels like this dark tunnel of cobwebs. So the first thing we do is we try to basically just brain dump that experience. And then what we try to do is sort it by competency. We try to find the patterns in your experience that exhibit certain skill sets and things that the hiring manager is looking for. We map it to the hiring manager requirements, and then we visually represent it in a resume in a concise way. Think of your resume like the movie trailer, right? And then your interview is the actual movie. And so the common denominator that gets you through all of this is your story. Because even on LinkedIn, if someone, sees your story and your experience expressed in a story, that's going to compel them. That's going to make them, want to call you. And the same thing with your interview. And the big mistake I'll tell you that people make is they think that they don't need to tell their story on their resume and they only need to tell it in the interview. Okay? So your story is the building block. In fact, digging through your story is also what helps you identify what your niche is and what you want to do with your career. Okay? So I hope that I drilled the importance of storytelling in all of you. Okay. Now, the first mistake that people make when it comes to telling their story, whether it's on their resume or their interview, is that you all assume that the recruiter or hiring manager knows what you know. Who is guilty of that? who sometimes falls into the trap of, well, they probably know this. I don't need to put it on my resume. Or they should know this. I don't need to spell it out in my resume. Who's guilty of that? Anyone guilty of that? Anyone ever gotten feedback? Almost like you think that the recruiter should read your mind. Has anyone ever gotten that feedback? I'm so curious. John, I see that a backup career could be being a stand-up comedian, John. I'm just kidding. Yes. Okay, cool. Um, Here's another image that illustrates what I'm trying to say. This is what the recruiter knows. This is what you know on the right. What the recruiter knows is on the left. What you know is on the right. And in the middle is what the recruiter doesn't know about you. Your job is to bridge what the recruiter, what you know, right? Into basically, you want the recruiter to get to what you know. You want to be on the same page, right? And the story is that bridge that connects what the recruiter knows to what you know. Does that make sense? Tell me if that makes sense. I'm going to give you an example. So, this is a legit example from a session I had with a client not too long ago. This is what the client shared with me, okay? So I was, a product leader, and at my company, we were jeopardizing a segment of our partners because we were trying to simplify things for them, and we had to think about a different way for them to grow their business. Does that make sense to everyone? Can you read my client's mind in terms of what she's trying to portray? Be honest. And I also want you to guess what level this client is at. Can you guess her level just based on her story? Nope. Yeah, exactly. All right. So I had to ask her a few questions, and I was confused what she meant by partners. What does partner mean? And I'm actually a product leader. I was a product leader. I have been in product for a long time, but I had no idea what she meant by partners. Turns out she actually meant vendors. And when I asked her more questions around, what do you mean by jeopardizing a segment? She explained to me that her company was putting the vendor out of business because they were overly simplifying the solution. The vendor was trying to complicate things so that they can make more money. Anyone familiar? Anyone have been on a project where they worked with a vendor and the vendor's just trying to, make things worse so that they can stay on the project longer and charge more? Right? It's kind of like, when you have a contractor doing work in your house, painting or whatever, they're going to say, oh, yeah, no, it's going to take us longer to paint your house. And they're going to do it in the most complicated way so that they can charge you more. Right? So you see how these questions helped clarify her story, right? It turns out, after a lot of questioning, that the problem that she was trying to solve as a product leader is that she was leading a product. She was working side by side with a vendor. This vendor was phenomenal. They had a lot of, insider knowledge on how that product works. And so how can she motivate them to bring in value to her organization without, overcomplicating things? Is to basically find a middle ground where, she would prioritize basically the problems that are the most important for her company to solve, right? To keep the vendor motivated, to keep them making money, but actually doing work that increases their return on investment rather than doing busy work. So you see, all of these questions clarified her story. But I bet a lot of you, and I'm guilty of that too, do this where you think that the person is reading your mind, you're leaving out important information out of your story, and you're saying it in a way that is a little too high level and a little bit cryptic, right? So some of the mistakes that you are all making is that you use a lot of company specific jargon and not enough context on the who, what, when, and where, and why. We don't know what type of product she worked on. We don't know why this problem is important to her company to solve. We don't know where was this happening and when this was happening. Okay? All right. Mistake number 2, when you're telling your story, you position yourself as the hero. And this is why a lot of you have imposter syndrome when it comes to getting to the next level. You feel, oh, I'm not good enough. I haven't done as much. I don't have impressive achievements. Who feels that way? Okay, so here's an example of a leader trying to be a hero. This is at the director level. This is a snippet from a resume at the director level. Achieved 216% annual user growth and 126% increase in revenue, boosted 30% user conversion rate, and achieved 92% day 30 user retention by building a rapidly growing freemium subscription and by implementing company-wide product roadmap. This is a symptom of someone trying to over-impress and be a hero. Now, here's the problem with that. And by the way, there's way too many numbers. And when a recruiter sees too many numbers, they get overwhelmed and they stop even reading because it just feels a bunch of numbers and lines and tasks that you've done. What do you think is missing in here? Because, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to test you all. What do you think is missing here to make this person show up more as a leader? Who knows? What could this person do differently, or what mistake did this person make that makes them come across, yes, they don't talk about their team. There's nothing about people. There's too much about the product. They come across as an individual contributor. When you position yourself as a hero and a doer, you actually position yourself as a micromanager. The thing is, you're not the hero in your story. You're actually the guide. This is you. Do you know who the heroes are? It's actually your customer, the people in your team, and your boss. And you're supposed to position yourself as a trusted advisor, a person who solves problems, not did this and did all these amazing things. I mean, sure, you need to share the result too, but if you just focus on the results, then you come across more as a micromanager and more as a doer versus a guide. And as a leader, you're supposed to be a guide. And what does a great guide or a great doctor do? What does a great guide do? What does a great guide do? I'll give you a hint. A great guide is like a great doctor. And what does a doctor and a great guide have in common? A great mentor, a great guide, a coach, a doctor. What do they have in common? Pop quiz. Who's going to get this right? Yes, empathize. Very good, Sohail. Very good. Here's the thing. Bad doctors are quick to prescribe. And a lot of you get into the solution. A lot of you get into the how. Tell me about a time you resolved conflict. Oh, this is what I would do. I would take someone aside and I would, try to, understand where they're coming from and blah, blah, blah. And you go into instructional manual mode, just like a doctor who is quick to prescribe you pills. Instead, what a good doctor does is they diagnose the problem and explain the importance of the problem. Okay? So don't prescribe, diagnose. Because guess what? The company that is trying to hire you as a leader, they're interested in knowing that you've been in an environment with a similar problem. That's what they care about, not how you solved it and going into the weeds. Okay? So here's an example of my resume. And I put a quotes because some of you may have seen a live where I actually wrote my resume from scratch and I pretended that I was a job seeker. Okay. And here you can see an example of how I shared my story within my startup. And I shared it in the context of trying to apply to a product leadership role. And you can see that I'm sharing a story here. Direct growth of user adoption at an early stage startup with consumer-facing digital products to help clients across US, Canada, Mexico, UK, and Australia uplevel their career. And drive user acquisition within a saturated coaching market by partnering with allies across industry, including Scrum Alliance, Scrum.org, and Women in Product. Hire and manage team of product vendors to deliver mobile apps and websites from concept to launch. Do you see how I'm telling you a story? I'm giving you context and I'm diagnosing the problem so that if there's a startup out there who wants to hire, let's say a CPO or a VP of product, and they are facing a saturated market with very diverse clients and they're at a stage where they want to grow, they can relate to me. Do you see how I did that? A lot of you don't do that. You go on ChatGPT and you say, hey, ChatGPT, what do hiring managers look for? Oh, product roadmap, vision. Okay, let me just put that in my resume. Guess what? Everyone else is putting that in their resume. You don't stand out. And you become, what do you become? A pill prescriber, prescribing the solution instead of helping the hiring manager understand the challenges and hurdles that you've been through. And let me give you a clear example of how I did that in this live. At the beginning, I told you my story and about my hardships. You connected with me on that because you could relate to me that I've been through similar problems that you've been through versus me spending 30 minutes talking about my certifications and what I studied as a career coach and how I help people land jobs in the weeds, right? So this is what I'm talking about. All right. As a leader, the problems you should solve, and someone had this right, put the people first. Good job, Safe. As a leader, the problems you solve should also be people problems and not just product problems. Okay. Mistake number 3. I actually had a conversation today with one of my clients about this. And, we had a little bit of chat to help her jump over this hoop. And she shared with me, you know what, like searching for a job feels like a second job. It's so hard to balance between searching for a job and doing my job right now. And so I'm going to tell you something right now. That is a mistake. The fact that you're treating your job search like a second job is a big mistake. Most people think of searching for a job as sending out resumes, hitting people up. Hey, can you refer me to this job? Hey, virtual coffee. Can you send my resume over to the hiring manager? I heard you work there. And being fluffy and going into networking sessions and being fluffy. That's what most people think when they search for a job. Who's guilty of that? Imagine, well, someone actually shared something earlier that I really like, is that one of the biggest mistakes of moving to the next level is when you feel self-entitled and you no longer have to prove yourself. I'm going to tell you something right now. Even after helping hundreds of people land jobs, I prove myself every single day. I get on so many calls, I tell my stories, and you see that in my content as well. The thing is, selling your value, negotiating is part of your job. A lot of you are product leaders. A lot of you are tech leaders, agile leaders, or aspiring to be one. Do you think that your users are just going to be convinced that your product works? Do you think that clients, your B2B clients, are just going to buy in and drop your company thousands of dollars? If you're not able to practice your selling muscle and your negotiation muscle and your communication muscle, how are you going to be able to be effective at your job? If you don't enjoy sharing your thought leadership, doing these case assignments, even if you don't end up getting the job, doing it for fun, just like a crossword puzzle that sharpens people's brains, how are you going to get good at your job? The reason I create content every day too is also because I practice my skills of keeping my knowledge up to date in terms of how I help job seekers, of doing a retrospective of what worked and what didn't work. It keeps me sharp at what I do. And a lot of you feel like it needs to be your second job instead of enjoying it. So, yes, I love that. Think of your resume as the product, tell the story, and brand it. And more so, think of the job search. Think of all these networking conversations. Think of the interviews as conversations where you share your experiences. Because as a leader, you need to be an effective teacher. And if you can't teach recruiters and hiring managers about who you are, then how are you going to lead teams and influence stakeholders? So that is that is one of the biggest mistakes. And of course, when it comes to storytelling, you can't be good at storytelling just by watching videos and just writing your stories down. You have to say them out loud. How I became a great communicator and a great presenter is because I probably have done more than 50 lives. The thing is, when you're in a pressure situation, you are going to get better at what you do versus doing it on your own. And this is why I'm a huge advocate in community-based learnings. This is why the way I teach is all community-based, and I simulate the actual work environment and simulate the pressure that people go through when they go to interviews in order to tell their stories better. And as you've seen, that example of the client who was a little bit cryptic in her story, being able to say that story out loud and having someone to ask her questions is what pulled the information out of her head. Because as you all know, when it comes to building any product, including your story, it's all about iterating. Okay? Awesome. All right. So the other one, I can never do a live without sharing this mistake, is you don't have a North Star. Okay? That is a big mistake. So if you're trying to be a jack of all trades, even as a leader, you need to have a niche. And if you don't have that niche, what's going to happen if you don't have a North Star, just like how when we build products, when the product doesn't have a North Star, then no one is going to know what this product has to offer. So here's an example of someone with a LinkedIn profile that pretty much fits in that bucket. Scrum Master, Product Owner, Business Analyst, Product Analyst. I want you to put yourself in the recruiter's shoes for a second. And this is an extreme, situation, by the way. Some of you do it in a subtle way, where even as a leader, even as a product leader, or agile leader, or whatever profession you are, it's still not clear to me where your specialization is, what your preferences are, and what you bring into the table. For example, do you want to lead consumer products? Do you want to primarily work in B2B? Do you have a history of marketing and now you want to, focus more on basically communicating the value of the product, right? So having that niche is so important. Exactly. What is their role? What do they want to do? If a recruiter lands on this and they don't know what she wants to do, then they're not going to contact her. Okay. So you need to be known for something. And you can see that all of the most powerful brands in the world, they have a value proposition. They're known for something. Google, organize the world's information. It doesn't matter that they have a search engine. It doesn't matter that they have Google Drive. At the end of the day, their secret sauce, their value proposition, their zone of genius is organizing the world's information. And you need to have one too. Okay. Clear brand purpose and credibility are key to marketing success. And you need to be able to market yourself as a leader. And so, something that I teach people, especially in my storytelling bootcamp, is I get them to do a career archetype quiz that basically assesses their personality type, their work style, the types of problems that they prefer solving, all those components. And what I've learned that the most effective way to help people figure out what the right role is for them and what the next step for them is to look at these 3 buckets. Most people only focus on this one bucket, which is what type of problems do I enjoy solving? But the other buckets that are equally important is you want to ask yourself, what type of social impact do I want to make? How do I want to collaborate with others? Right? Maybe you're more of an introvert. Maybe you prefer basically being in meetings all day. Maybe you don't, right? So understanding all of these things are game changers because sometimes what happens is people end up in toxic situations and they start questioning their entire career when really it's more because of the misalignment in values between the organization and them. And so having basically a way to assess things and audit all of that is extremely important. And having a goal. And here's what one of my clients shared. There's a journaling exercise that I share with people called Chunks of 10, where I get people to basically share all the impactful moments in their career. And this client shared that he had a lot of different thoughts about what he wanted, a lot of hidden ideas, and it really helped taking them out and putting down on paper. So this is why it's important to know your North Star. And the last thing I wanted to share, what if you're a multi-passionate person? You know what? One of my clients, Rachel Blackburn, she has done every single job out there that you can think of, every single odd job out there, to the point where she was in a factory putting basically caps on toothpaste. And even with that, the career archetype quiz helped her identify what her value proposition is, which is her love for teaching. And we ended up transferring that to the tech world, and she landed as a learning consultant at a tech organization, working side by side by UX designers without any previous tech experience. So there you go. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say, which is a great segue, by the way, your question, is you are not sharing your story out loud and you're trying to figure this out on your own. The thing is, it's hard to see the patterns in your experiences on your own. I myself had to work with a career coach to figure out that I wanted to be a career coach. Because when you're in the middle of it and your experience feels like a brain dump, it's honestly hard to be an outsider and see the patterns. And one of my big philosophies, and also why I don't, really work with people one-on-one, is basically being able to speak your story with a partner and having that person see the patterns. And of course, it can't just be any random person. It has to be a trained person who's able to see the patterns. And this is why I invented the career archetype quiz, because it is based on many permutations of clients who have different personality types. Just like a researcher, think of it like how doctors see different, patients with different symptoms, and that's how they're able to diagnose you. Okay, so went through all the mistakes. And so my question for you at this point is, if you think that you need to have the title, I want to actually share with you one of my clients who was able to transition into an agile coach role even though she's never ever had the title. And here she was sharing to me that right after we rebranded her, she literally got a phone call from the recruiter, and this seems magic, for the actual North Star ideal job that she identified without even applying. Isn't that crazy? It's like the red car phenomena. When you become more aware, you start noticing the red cars. And here's another example of a client who was a doctor, no tech experience, and she ended up breaking into product and becoming a product manager. And if you think you need US or Canadian experience, well, I've had so many clients who were interviewed by Google and landed jobs at big tech while still in their country. This client in particular was still in India. She didn't even land in the US or Canada to basically get interviewed. And another client of mine who actually landed a senior TPM role, technical product manager role, at Amazon while still in Mexico. You can see that here. And if you think you need fancy degrees or certifications, well, this client of mine did not have a degree, went from being a truck driver to landing a agile mentor role at one of the top gaming companies in Europe. So there you go, my friends. And last one is this. I have so many success stories, but I'm just going to keep it to this last one. Is this client who landed a director of product roles by being able to tell his story. So I have great news for you. I'm sure that you have a lot of questions around how you can implement those strategies, whether it's figuring out your North Star, whether it is mapping your stories to your experience, whether it's creating concise messaging, or getting direct personalized feedback on your stories. Well, guess what? I have a storytelling boot camp. And if you are interested in it, and if you really enjoyed these strategies and really want to work closely with me to implement them, then definitely send me a DM after this live. Now, to honor my basically bribe to keep you all learning, I'm going to award the first 20 people who send me a DM on LinkedIn right after this live. I will basically provide you either a resume review or a LinkedIn profile review that is valued $100. Okay. I know that a lot of career coaches charge that just for the review. And a lot of you on this live, right? A lot of you on this live some of you have already gotten, a review and know how detailed my reviews are. So definitely reach out to me if you want to be part of that 20. I'm not going to be able to get through every single person. There are literally 350 people on this live. So take a chance on yourself. DM me right after this live. If I've already reviewed, your resume, then I'm happy to review your LinkedIn profile. If I've already, reviewed both, then happy to answer any question you have, whether it is with an interview answer or whatever. Okay. Make sure that you DM me. Wonderful question, John. You assume the recruiter hiring manager knows what you know. You position yourself as the hero. Wow, you are so awesome. You're definitely eligible. You're definitely eligible for either a resume review or a LinkedIn profile, John. So make sure you DM me before, or just DM me as soon as you can, because I'm not going to be able to get through more than 20 people. And if any of you are interested in the storytelling bootcamp, then also let me know. Who's interested in learning more about the storytelling bootcamp? Who wants to be part of an amazing community and work on their story instead of stuff their resume with a bunch of keywords? Anyone? And by the way, if you have questions about the storytelling bootcamp, then feel free to put them in the chat as well. I can also answer them. We still have a couple of minutes before we go, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Interested in the storytelling? Wonderful. I'd got my DM ready to go. Just hit the send button. Yes, I'm in for the storytelling bootcamp too. Wonderful. Okay, so storytelling bootcamp is a 4-week bootcamp that takes you through identifying your North Star. It comes with the career archetype quiz, which will help you identify what archetype you are. And as part of the bootcamp as well, we really build your stories. I call it creating a story bank. Having a story bank, think of them like Lego pieces. You are someone really liked that image of what I showed earlier of the Lego pieces. We take that brain dump, we turn it into Lego pieces in alignment with what we identify as your North Star in terms of a job, and then we work on building your resume. So let me share here. So this is exactly the approach that I go through when it comes to the storytelling bootcamp. Is we take your experience, we identify, well, first of all, we identify your North Star through the career archetype quiz. Then we take that brain dump of experience and we turn it into stories that you can use for interviews as well as your resume. So let me know if you are interested in that. Definitely DM me. And of course, if you want, the resume review or the LinkedIn review, I'm also happy to provide that. Wonderful, everyone. Thank you, Louise. You've been awesome. You've been awesome. And I'm so proud of how you went through the storytelling boot camp and really, have been able to tell your leadership story as well as build a resume that is impactful. Okay. It is 8 o'clock. I'm going to go give my dog his medication. I enjoyed having you all. And if there's one thing that I want to leave you with is always believe in yourself. Don't give yourself excuses about that you're in a disadvantage or that you're an underdog, because as you can see, I'm not exactly at an advantage. I'm a visible minority. I'm a woman in tech. I came here by myself. I didn't know anyone and I still made it. So all I want is for everyone to be successful. All right. Bye, everyone. Love you all. And don't forget to send me a DM because I only have 15 spots available for my storytelling bootcamp because I like to keep the size small. So I don't want you to be in that situation where you're in a waiting list, especially if you want to get, your stories done and increase your chances, especially if you're frustrated with your resume or you get jitters when you go to the interview and you really need that guide to help you with your blind spots as well as help you practice. Have a nice evening.